So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what really drives them forward. And today I'm really delighted to have with us David McKee, who's the CEO, the CTO and founder of Slingshot Simulations. So David, welcome on board. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and Slingshot to our audience, we'd love to know how you help your clients.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. So yes, I am David McKee. I'm the CEO, CTO, and founder here at Slingshot. I founded Slingshot out of the University of Leeds. And this was really on a premise of helping my fellow students at the time. I was a PhD student, and helping them perform their studies, the analysis, the modeling, simulation, some really deep tech stuff, do it faster. So you might not be aware, in a PhD in the UK, it's 3.5 years, and we found a lot of students were taking 12 to 15 months running these models and simulations and would find out they made a mistake 15 months in. That's a long time on a 3.5-year project, and you just don't have time to do it again. So I said, let's make this faster, let's make this easier, and let them do what they're good at, what they're supposed to be doing. And we realized, working with some of the world's biggest tech companies, we worked with people like Jaguar Land Rover, Rolls-Royce, Alibaba, and others. So actually, there's a lot of people who could benefit from this technology, from automating how we make decisions, how we link data and information together, how we drive insights. Since then, with the support of the Royal Academy of Engineering in 2018 through 2019, I started Slingshot Simulations. We were a team of 3 in September 2019. Today, we're a team of 17, which has been a terrifying growth story, which is brilliant and exciting, based here in the center of Leeds, and been very fortunate to continue to have the support of the Royal Academy of Engineering, being listed on Insider Media's 42 under 42, as well as a whole range of other accolades that, being very British, you can go and look them up.
Wonderful! Wow, wowzers! So 3 people to, goodness, that's pretty rapid growth. I'm sure that we'll probably come to a few challenges that you might have had to face. So, when you were growing up, was this always the sort of thing you wanted to get into, or did you have other aspirations?
I think I was probably always going to be an engineer or a politician. So probably running your own company is kind of the mix of both, right?
Yep. Yeah, I guess so. Brilliant. Oh, that's brilliant. So, yeah, to go in a bit more detail, what's obviously with the fast growth that you've had, what are some of the biggest issues that you've had to overcome over that time?
I mean, I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, particularly with the university spin out, is there's some really great tech, some really core intellectual property, some ideas there that are world class, world leading, that allows us to get the funding. And we secured £2.25 million of funding to get us going. Brilliant opportunity. However, it takes a while to get that up to an enterprise grade technology that anybody can use. So there is a lead time there that is quite hard to explain to shareholders and so forth, to say, no, let's get going right now. The biggest thing for us, however, as a business, has actually been the user experience of our technology for our customers and our clients. And that is because, I talk about making that easier, faster, etc. Well, actually, how do you achieve that? It's through user experience, it's through simplicity, elegance, accessibility. And our mission is all about democratizing for anyone, anywhere, these types of tools, which means you are your fish and chip shop owner, your engineer, whoever it is, has to be able to use it to the capability that they want it. That is not an easy task. My ambition is always, and our creative director always says, within 3 minutes, you should be able to get started on our tool.
Wow.
That is a hard target to hit. We do not always manage it, but we aim for it.
That's incredible. And you mentioned fish and chip shop. So I mean, how many different types of industries or sectors do you operate within?
So we focus on what is known as the location intelligence sector. And I'll break that down. Now, roughly 80% of all data or information out there has a location aspect to it. Whether it is the photos that you've taken using your smartphone that will have the coordinates, the timestamp, everything that tells you where you took it, when you took it, etc. Or whether it's your receipt from when you went to your restaurant, it's got the address at the bottom. So we use that location information to automatically link that to other information in what we call the data lake, which sits in the cloud. You might have uploaded loads of other spreadsheets, models, whatever, and we can correlate that automatically based on that location element, based on time elements, using natural language as well to look for, if you've ordered haddock, we can correlate that with everyone else's ordered haddock. And we can look at that and differentiate that from other types of fish, for example. So we operate in this location space. So that could be shop owners, it could be construction companies, it could be cities, and we do a lot in transport planning and things like that as well. And it all focuses on helping people understand their data and their information better. So if you're a fish and chip shop owner, you have information about who's bought, maybe not who, but how many people bought fish and chips, when, where, what time, all that type of thing. However, to help you sell more, and that's what you have to do as a business, what is it that drives your small fish and chip shop owner? There's not much space in your shop. People need to queue. So they end up queuing outside, and we've all done this. But it's tipping it with rain. I don't think I'll bother. I think I'll just carry on driving past. So maybe having the weather forecast there to help you plan your opening hours. Well, okay, post-pandemic, all our patterns of driving have changed because we're working from home. Actually, I'm going to miss the traffic. I'm going to go home at 3. Maybe should the shop open half an hour earlier because everyone's driving past at a different time? That information, most of which is public to a certain extent, is all information that if it is exposed in the right way, in an easy to use manner, could help that shop owner who's not a data scientist, they're not an expert in any of those areas, decide, actually, if I open half an hour earlier, I might be able to get 100 new customers.
That's really interesting. Funnily enough, I was speaking to David Farnsworth, who's MD of the Tong Garden Centre, a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that there's a critical temperature of around 13 to 14 degrees when people start thinking about buying things for their gardens. It's a bit below that, and it's not a sunshine issue, it's more a temperature issue. Once it feels, and it's really interesting to know then, if you knew that the temperature was going to get to that point in a couple of weeks' time, what you could do about maybe changing what you sold, I guess. So you
use that for stock planning. Actually, and that could take weeks and sometimes months. Absolutely.
My brain's going to explode a minute because I could just think of all the possibilities that you have there. So that's really, really fascinating. So what, through this journey that you've had, what are some of the biggest learnings that you've identified? What have you learned?
I mean, there's multiple things, and I wouldn't be able to go through them all, and probably most of them I've forgotten already. But I think the biggest thing is actually learning how to delegate and work with a team that has grown quickly, and also how your project management style, your business leadership style has to change all the time. So we were 6 people before the pandemic hit. We recruited 2 people during the first week of lockdown.
Wow.
Completely virtual. They didn't meet us in person until about 6 months in. And we recruited another 3 during lockdown. So we had to completely change our processes there. And then, we continued to grow on project management staff, all of those types of things. So you have to change how you manage it, but trying to manage a culture as part of that. That has been the biggest thing, and remaining kind of accessible to everyone has been one of the biggest things. The other thing actually is, and this is something that isn't particularly British, is learning to not be too modest about what we do, particularly when we've got some really cool tech that's come from a university. And the biggest thing for me, and we're actually seeing this in May, we've been invited to speak at IoT World Congress, and I'm on a panel with the chief strategist for Dell Technologies.
Wow.
And that is an opportunity, because actually we've gone in, we've talked, and we've worked with the standards bodies. I've got to know these people to talk about what we do, and there's no difference. It doesn't matter that there's a $100 billion company and a small little Slingshot Simulations. We're the same. It's exactly the same. It's still people doing interesting things who want to talk about what they're doing.
Wonderful. That really fascinating. I'd say my mind is spinning in many different ways. And in terms of, obviously, you're probably aware we're a coaching organisation. I'm keen to know what sort of, who would be, say, the best coach you've ever had in any sort of discipline?
I mean, I think probably one of the best is one of my mentors. So I went through the Royal Academy of Engineering accelerator program, continued to get a huge amount of support from them. And for anyone looking to set up an engineering type business, I'd highly recommend you look up their enterprise fellowship program. Brilliant. no equity involved, phenomenal. And you get access to their facilities on the Mall in London. So, brilliant. My mentor is one of their fellows. He was the founder of Cambridge Silicon Radio, who was sold to Qualcomm back in, I think, 2007 for £2 billion. Getting his insights of going from a company that was really small, set of consultants, to exiting at that scale is someone who's seen all that journey and being able to give me that experience. So I'd say, Phil has probably been one of the best in that. But I always seek out other mentors, and went through the Creative Destruction Lab program at Oxford Side Business School, and was fortunate to have mentors from everyone from City of London through to the current chairman of Twitter, giving me his insights over an hour to say, have you thought about this? So I think, and the biggest thing there was just go ask these people, because it's amazing who will share their experience with you and who will give you advice if you just ask.
I think that's something I learned, quite a long time ago, was that, successful people often are typically very, very keen to share their help, support, and learning. And whereas most of us can feel a little bit, we can stand off for them a little bit sometimes, because we perhaps think they wouldn't have time for us. But most people I've met that are very successful have more than enough time to share any ideas and support other people on their journeys. Absolutely,
it is, and it does take a learning curve to get through that, and you do have to get over your nerves. And once you do, you just end up having coffee. And it is an incredible conversation, and the wealth of knowledge that you can get from everyone and anyone, regardless of their position, and that's actually quite important as well. Is it doesn't matter what background they come from, that it can be very useful.
Yeah, brilliant. So have you picked up any quotes or sayings that stand you in good stead at difficult times?
Oof, that's a very hard one. I mean, I think the biggest thing wouldn't be a quote or saying, but is in terms of how I would show my true feelings and emotions within the team of the business. This was a piece of advice I got from a couple of the mentors independently, was if I am getting a lot of pressure as the CEO, I need to make sure I don't share that onto the team. So the team generally around the room will never see me stressed.
Great.
There are people who work directly with me on a more closer, but they will know, because obviously but the team shouldn't, because it's not their problem. And that is a surprisingly hard thing to achieve and do, because you naturally, when you're stressed, you naturally come off rougher. You express yourself differently. So that needs to be managed. But that is probably the biggest thing on a day-to-day basis, is making sure I do that.
Brilliant. No, that makes sense. It is difficult. We've always got to be as leaders, we need to always have that confidence and that vision in mind. What, speaking of yourself, so what would say some of the things you've learned about yourself as you've grown this business?
I think probably the biggest thing is I'm probably more patient than I thought I would have been with people. And actually, I always enjoyed teaching, and I worked at the university, I did quite a lot of lecturing and so forth. But realizing that's part and parcel of it is still doing that and actually enjoying to do that, and learning that I enjoy that mentorship and that working with people. But also, I think the other thing which is really interesting at Slingshot is that I'm a software engineer and I like solving complex problems. What I didn't necessarily realize when I set out to do it was how meaningful some of those problems had to be. So when I think about some of the causes one might support, and I'm really excited the fact that as a business we've been able to support some great causes. So we've done some great work with the Rainforest Trust, for example, to help them look at how to prevent deforestation, how to analyze data and information and speed that process up. The process has taken them roughly 2 weeks of analyzing information. We got it down to less than 2 minutes. And that equates to hundreds, if not thousands, of square kilometers of rainforest that were cut down during that period. So being able to make a decision has a genuine impact. And going back 2 years ago, I don't think I wouldn't have necessarily thought that as CEO, that is what I would have been really passionate about, is those causes, and seeing the benefit of our technology on net zero, on climate change. Was it's not that I didn't care about them.
Yeah.
I was a technologist. I enjoyed
Yep.
solving complex problems. I still do, but there's a purpose beyond that, and that's probably the transition almost from a technologist to running the business.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and I mean, as you say, to be able to help people save rainforest actively and in rapid time must feel very rewarding. I can see that. So, I mean, you've grown very fast already, and I'm interested to know what you see the future looks like and what challenges you may face as you continue to grow.
I need to be very careful here, because last time that I said we won't hire any more people, a month later we hired 3 more. So I need to be very careful what I say, but that's okay. I mean, as a business, we're going through a process of rapid growth. I don't know, how many people will be this time next year. Will be more. With quite a lot more, I'm sure. I know we will have a US footprint as well. We're in the process of establishing that. And I personally do a lot of work in the US. I work with the software standards body. I chair some of the digital twin working groups at OMG, working closely with Dell Technologies, Esri, and others. So, and that's another area of mentorship where I get from those, how they've grown over 20, 30 years. So as a business, we're establishing partnerships with some of the big tech giants out there, learning from them, building upon their go-to-market strategies, their client network, and working with them. So that's a long way of saying we're growing fast. We're going to continue to grow quickly. I'm sure. I am obsessed with speed, in the sense that I want technology to run really, really fast and solve problems really quickly. But that also means grow a business quickly as well.
Great. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, fast growth comes with, it obviously has lots of benefits, but it also comes with different challenges to slow growth or even stagnation. And but no, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the biggest challenges is, how do you grow so quickly in organic fashion, which is almost contradictory. Is like, so how do you get to that point, but actually maintain a culture?
Yes,
that is, we talk about being the Slingshot family, or how do we ensure that we maintain that in a way that's not easy to do. And actually, beyond 10 people, it's a different beast. And so we're already having to go through a phase of that, and to not re-engineer who we are, but re-engineer how we manage who we are.
Yeah.
And that is, and if you don't think about it, you lose it, and you lose it quickly.
Yeah, but what's interesting, in my opinion, is by being champions of our culture and our vision, that actually enables fast growth, if that makes sense. A lot of people fear that as we grow, we lose it, and because there is examples out there of that's happened. Yeah. But if we really focus on what makes us different, what's important to us, we'll attract more and more people that agree with us. So they'll come more easily. They'll stay for longer, because they're aligned with our goals and our values. And there's some interesting stuff, work done by Simon Sinek, who you may not be familiar with, but he uses this. He's written a great book called Start With Why, which is basically saying great businesses are founded on being clear on what their purpose is, and they attract both customers, but also staff and employees and suppliers that align to those values.
And I think we've seen that with the types of people who've joined us. As a software company, you think most of my team would be software engineers by training. They're not. They are people who have changed career from another discipline, retrained as software engineers. So we want to do this because this is really interesting. So that means we've got a really interesting group of people with different backgrounds who can apply a completely different way of thinking, and have come up from all over the country, all over Europe, to join us. And people have moved to Leeds to join us, be here in the office. And it's interesting. There's a big move to work from home, remote working. And we have a hybrid approach, and we're fairly flexible on that. But there is a clear interest from everyone in the business is we want to be here, because actually we want to go for a drink after work. We want to go to the pub for lunch, which we did earlier today, because the weather's so nice. We're talking about that a few minutes ago. Right. So that's part of it, and we actively get everyone in the company to feedback into how's it going. Yep. What could we be doing differently? And we're very transparent about our strategy as a business. Yep. And I report back to everyone in the team, on every board meeting. So I
Right.
will give a summary of the board meeting to everyone in the business afterwards.
Wow.
Obviously, you can't share everything.
No.
But actually, that says no. We're on a journey together.
Yeah, great. Well, as you say, you can't share everything, but just sharing anything is fairly rare. Let's be frank. It's that's fascinating. So, a question I often find really interesting to hear the answers from. If you started again, if you started your business again today, what might you do differently?
I think that the biggest thing we would change is as any startup, you start in essence as consultants. So you provide your services, you're providing your expertise, you're using your tech, and you're trying to get that to pay for your roadmap and your product development, the standard software journey.
Yep.
However, at the beginning, you kind of have to take whatever you get. I wish we'd maybe be slightly more judicious. No, I've always had this thing of it has to 80% align with our roadmap, because it never will 100%. We didn't govern that quite enough.
Yeah.
Because your startup, you kind of have to prove it. You have to get that experience. But in hindsight, I probably would have been a bit more judicious to say, you know what, I'm going to say no to that revenue and run for longer without any revenue, which is a privilege I appreciate of being VC backed.
Yeah.
To get to market faster with a product, which we launched back in. So we launched our platform to the public back in early February. So that's out there, and you can even start for free. You can go and use our platform for free, no cost, and it scales up to £10 or £20 if you're not an enterprise. So if you're a small business owner, have a look on our website, just get started for free right now. And if you need help using our platform, you can just give us a ring. We'll give you a hand. Okay. But that took us 2 years to get to that point. There was a lot of learning, and some of that we could have sped up. Yeah. And that is probably what I would have tried to do, speed up that process. Right. Would we have ended with the same product? I don't know, because there's a level of time that you learn lessons through that pain.
Yes.
That's quite important.
Yeah, fascinating. No, fascinating. So that's and what would you say to anyone that's thinking of going into business today?
I mean, I'd highly encourage it. I think it's a brilliant journey. However, you have to know the work that's involved. That's one. So when I was asked by one of my mentors at Side Business School in Oxford, they were saying, how many hours do you anticipate spending on this business? And they said, are you talking 40 hours a week, 50 hours? And I said, actually, you need to be looking at 250 to 300 hours a month.
Right.
It's quite a lot.
Yep.
That's your average. And there's times you're going to go high, so they said, be ready to spend 70 plus hours a week running your business, because that is what it will take to get your business off the ground and grow it. If you want rapid growth, it's not saying you can't do it unless. That is what you have to be willing to do. You have to be
be willing to do.
As CEO, you have to be the first in the morning to the office, last out. You have to. There's no job that's too small or too big for the CEO, and you have to be willing to do that. The other thing, and that actually is probably the biggest part, because that is your driver to achieve anything. Yeah. Then you have to have a good idea, obviously, and you have to validate that it's a good idea. Because otherwise, that's great. And to be honest, without that, you can do very well and go and join a company. That could be a small company, and you'll probably end up doing very, very well in a company like ours. Yep. We've got people who do that and have done phenomenally well. Yep. If you have a really good idea, go and validate it. And my personal preference of the fastest way is using if you go to Strategizer, they've got their kind of business model canvas and the value proposition canvas. Yep. Probably the easiest way is on a whiteboard in half an hour session to start mocking out what that is in a way you can go and test that with business owners and other people who might be your clients, and go beyond friends and family, because friends and family will tell you what you want to hear.
Yep. Totally agree. Friends and family are great for support. They're our supporters, but it's the challenge that other people will give us that we really need when we're growing. It's the asking the difficult questions, and sometimes stating what seems to be obvious even when it's not always clear. And I think that's really important. Yeah. So David, it's been absolutely fascinating. I've got one final question for you, which I'm interested to find out the answer to, which is what would be the best advice you could give to an 18-year-old you?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, as an 18-year-old, and like probably most 18-year-olds, you need to learn to listen better.
Yeah.
And read. I mean, I've always read a lot, but really read, know what's going on in the world, understand what's involved in the world of business and what is actually involved if you want to succeed. And the example I'd give is, you see companies coming out of the US that are an overnight success, billion-dollar unicorns.
Yeah.
But there's several of those that are an overnight success after 9 years of hard work.
Absolutely.
And that's the key, is there was 9 years where no one had heard of them.
Yeah.
Where they were slugging away, putting in that hours of work, sweat, blood, tears, and it succeeded.
Yeah.
But knowing that is what it takes, and not expecting the instant win. Which obviously, when you're young, you're a teenager, you're in your early 20s, you can expect the instant win. That's because actually you kind of do all the way through. The time frames are quite small, obviously, when you're at school and university, but acknowledge that things take longer, and you have to work hard.
Yeah, very, very sound and sage advice, and hopefully a lot of people will pick that up from this session. Well, David, it's been really great talking to you. Quite inspiring, actually. I'm really fascinated. As I say, my brain is whirring about the things that you're doing and the applications of what you do, including for I work with a lot of SME business owners, so making this technology available to them is quite fascinating when I think about some of the organizations that could benefit from it. So I mean,
absolutely. And we're open. If it is something that can impact people and make lives better, then we want to have that conversation.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, and perhaps we could come back in a year or so's time and see where you are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely fascinating. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.